Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, February 11th, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Just having fun over here, thinking about our homegirl Marjorie Taylor Green and her wild sex life, according to the Daily Mail. Have you?
She's been stepping out, Mark. That's how we turn it back home. She's been stepping out on her man for a while now, the Daily Mail reports.
Exclusive. Embattled QAnon Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Green openly cheated on her husband of 25 years with a polyamorous tantric sex guru, and then moved on to another affair with the manager at her gym. Now, I don't know if any of this is true or not, because the Daily Mail is full of shit, as we talked about a couple weeks ago when they tried to say that what's her name was sleeping, like Jane Krakowski was sleeping with the My Pillow guy.
Yeah, right.
But you do want to go look at the pictures of. I mean, first of all, I didn't know Marjorie Taylor Green was married. I don't know how that escaped notice, but I guess he sort of just hides, as I would do if I was married to her.
Absolutely, yeah. I gotta say, so she cheated on her husband with, among others, what'd you say, a tantric sex guru or whatever.
A polyamorous,
a polyamorous tantric sex guru. And the picture I saw, this dude looks like Zangief from Street Fighter 2. He's got a Street Fighter 2 aesthetic going on. And I mean, dude, honestly, I gotta say, if you gotta be a monkey, be a gorilla. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna cheat, make it as ridiculous as possible, I guess.
There's a picture in the article of a guy. Of the dude. He's wearing he's doing kettlebell workout in extremely tight spandex, pretty much tighty whities that are flower print with a long sleeve shirt, as you do. So yeah, she's. Well, I'm sad she's in Congress, and I'm glad she exists.
All right. With us, as always, is producer Matt doing his thing. This is Evening Skews. Got a fun show for you tonight. The theme of the day: consequences. What are they? Are they real in this country? Who's to say? With everything going on with the second impeachment and celebrities Gina Carano and Wallen, you could be forgiven for not being entirely clear on the answers to those questions. But me and Mark will do our best in discussing them. That and some other fun subjects on tonight's Skews. But first, as always, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD is a man whose recognition in this segment is long overdue. Even if we've covered him before, it's still long overdue for a repeat appearance. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who has some hard-hitting questions he would like answered on the subject of the real culprits behind the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. Matt, play the clip when you got it, please.
Here's what I want to know. What did Nancy Pelosi know, and when did she know it? If this was widely known by the FBI and Capitol Hill Police that people were planning to come to Washington before the 6th to create violence, I want to know, did she know about that?
It all comes back to Nancy Pelosi, Mark. That's where it all ends at. That's what he wants to know. What role did Nancy Pelosi play in this?
I think we need to impeach her as president of Antifa. I think is what we need to do. But you can be forgiven for thinking that he's trying to accuse. It sounds like he's calling Nancy Pelosi a dumbass for failing to frame Trump for her own murder. I think what he's trying to say is that if Trump should have known about it and stopped with the National Guard, maybe Pelosi could have stopped it if she'd known to call up Capitol Police reinforcements or whatever. And she pulled back the police to make Trump look bad, which is like a plot too clever for anyone to pull off outside of the movie Knives Out. So.
Well, yeah, but it's also just like, I don't know, it's weird to me saying, like, if everyone knew about this, then why didn't Nancy Pelosi stop it specifically, when the same logic also applies to, him and the rest of his ilk? Like, if they all knew about it and it was on their side of things and being incited by their guy, somehow they're not the ones who should have stopped it. It should have been like, if they knew we were going to try to kill them all with our people, like, why didn't they try to stop it? They should have tried harder. That's my thing.
There's a word that became mainstream popular at the peak of after Trump got elected, and people started talking about Russian spy plots a lot. But whataboutism, right? Where it would say that
yes.
it was a propaganda tactic that I guess, was famously used by the Soviet Union. And be like, oh, well, Stalin caused millions of people to starve to death in Ukraine as political punishment. And they'd be like, well, what about U.S. support for apartheid South Africa? And it's like, okay, good point. But also, like, is that what we're fucking talking about here? So here you have, like, Trump led an insurrection. And go, well, what about Nancy Pelosi's failings? It's like, okay, impeach Nancy Pelosi too. I don't give a shit. Throw them all out. I don't care. Their basic level. It's a child. They're all childish morons. I hate like that. They're like, I couldn't do that to my wife in an argument. Right. It would be a failed rhetorical tactic.
Right.
For my wife to be like, you crashed the car into a tree. I'm like, yeah, but what about all the drunk drivers who hit a busload of kids, who hit kids? It's like, that doesn't fucking, what does that have to do with what you did, man? It doesn't.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, some honorable mentions for you. The first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is if you are poor, you're a dumbass for being poor, everybody. You shouldn't have done that. That was very stupid. If you don't know what I mean, let Fox News explain it for you in this segment featuring noted poor hater Dave Ramsey. Matt, play the clip whenever you have it.
Yeah. What do you believe is the right number or the right answer for the next stimulus check?
Well, I don't believe in a stimulus check, because if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, you were pretty much screwed already. You got other issues going on. You have a career problem, you have a debt problem, you have a relationship problem, you have a mental health problem, something else is going on.
You have a food problem.
$600 changes your life. And that's not talking down to folks. I've been bankrupt. I've been broken. I work with people every day who are hurting. I love people. I want people to be lifted up. But this is, again, it is just political rhetoric, and it's
So for the record, just so everybody knows, I hate so much everything about all of that. We just play like that is like the distilled essence of what I hate so much about like the trickle down economic Republican types and the bootstrap motherfuckers. Is just that right there in that clip. It drives me fucking crazy.
People can't like no one thinks that $600 is going to change someone's long-term outlook, right?
Right.
This is for people to use this money to buy food if they need it.
Right.
And the government has to send it to everyone because they don't know who needs food. Right?
And $1,400 is a fucking lot of food, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, he says, and like that's a huge difference between $600 and $1,400. That's more than double. You know what I mean? But it's just a rounding error to these people, and they can't understand how much of a difference either one of those amounts, but especially the higher one, would make for a huge percentage of people in this country. And then he says, like, and that's not talking down to people, when that's 100% exactly what it is.
He, if you don't know who this guy is, he's a fucking talk radio host, and
Right.
his claim to expertise on this, the way Bill Hemmer set it up, was like, you talk to people from all across this country every day, so you know what they're thinking. This is a group of people who call into his radio show because they listen to it because they already agree with him, right? It'd be me saying I have the pulse of the nation because I talked to Trey on this thing for 2 hours a week.
Right. Right. And I just don't know, like, all the, like, you know, I'm from rural Tennessee, and obviously shit, very red there, but like, I literally couldn't even, if you asked me like what percentage of people that I knew growing up, or my friends from back home or whatnot, just people in my circle back home who would be massively benefited by an extra $1,400 right now, I mean, it would be almost 100. Maybe not literally 100. It might maybe 90, 95 or whatever. But I couldn't even put a number on it because the answer is just pretty much every single one of them. And they don't have other issues in their life. Their only issues are being born where they were, when they were, and that's pretty much it. They don't have, I mean, yeah, some of them, get drunk or whatever, but like they don't have they don't automatically have all these additional problems that lead to them, because that's how these people think, is like, if you are in a situation where $1,400 would help you in your day-to-day life, then you have fucked up. Like, that's how they look at it, when that it's just, no, you haven't. You've just lived, you've just played the hand you were dealt for however many years you've been alive. And if you were dealt this hand, then that's just where you are. And that's the reality for most people. There's no fuck ups or no mistakes that were made. I don't know.
I always love that they frame it that like people are only losers because they drink and do drugs. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they drink and do drugs because they're fucking losers.
Exactly.
Like, it's like maybe shit's not going the way they want. They want to feel good for a little bit. And also like the American economy is only structured. It's structured so only a few people can win. Not everybody can be successful if they work hard. It's not designed that way. The Fed literally sets interest rates to keep a certain amount of people unemployed so there's no inflation. So like if the government's designed this system to keep a minimum 4% of people unemployed, what do the rest of us owe that 4% of people? If we're forcing them to be unemployed, so the rest of us groceries don't get more expensive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. And it's also like he said, if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, you were pretty much screwed already. The other thing for me is like, so then what? Like, just fuck you until you die? You know what I mean? Like if you needed this money, then you were in bad shape, and so you should just die? Or like, what is supposed to happen?
Again, letting them all die doesn't mean poor people go away, because again, the federal adjust interest rates again to let the surviving people, 4% of them will be unemployed. Right. If we keep going down this system, everybody starves to death. It doesn't fucking make any sense. Right. So anyway, like there's a fight whether to call them survival checks or stimulus checks or whatever. And I understand the rhetorical thing because you want to make it whether it's about people or the economy, but it's the same shit, because if you send somebody $1,400 and they spend it all on groceries, that money goes in the hands of grocery store owners and workers who then spend it on shit for advertisers that advertise on that fucking asshole's radio show. So he ends up with the money anyway. So
I don't know. We could fucking spend it, not even just an episode, an entire like weeks-long series on this exact subject, because
everybody hates poor people, Trey. Right. Everybody fucking hates them.
This shit just drives me up the wall as a poverty American, or former long-time poverty American. Anyway, all right, some other honorable mentions for you. Mark, you set this next one up, please. The hotel one.
So this all right, so March 4th, rates at Trump's hotel in D.C. have quadrupled for the night of March 4th. And if you have a normal brain, you don't understand why. I'll let this guy who's an expert on QAnon set it up for us.
The average room rate is $500 a night, but on the night of March 3rd and then 4th, they've jacked it up to $1,300. I mean, can you just explain what we're seeing here?
Sure. So, I mean, there is still actually some pending questions around whether or not it was jacked up automatically by an algorithm. But if you are a hotel designing an algorithm that's responding to increased demand, that still shows that there's a large percent of Trump followers, or at least enough, are interested in coming on the 4th for what they believe is going to be an event, that these prices are being jacked up. Now, they may actually be jacked up manually. That's very possible as well. But what we know here is that these numbers are showing an increase in this belief, specifically this March 4th, re-inauguration 19th president belief. And I believe that we were not probably going to see anything as intense as what happened on the Capitol due to many different factors, including that Trump no longer has access to many social media platforms. And there's apparently, I mean, there might be a rally plan that day, but, a call. All
right.
Yeah. So March 4th was the original inauguration date in the Constitution. We mentioned this before. It's a sovereign citizen thing that America actually is governed under maritime law once they added fringe to the flags, and there hasn't been a real president since the 18th one. So March 4th, Donald Trump is going to be sworn in as the 19th president of the United States. That's the legit one, and they're all coming to his party for it. Right. Which the funny part about it is Trump won't be there. And because he's made it very clear to the city of Palm Beach that he already has another job, and that's operating as the Walmart greeter for Mar-a-Lago. If you have that Zeus story, Matt. So he's in a legal fight with Palm Beach because he apparently agreed when he bought the place to not live in Mar-a-Lago. The rules state that any member of Mar-a-Lago can only be there 3 weeks a year, which technically includes Trump. But there's an exception for staff. So like the maids can live in the maids' quarters and shit. So he's saying, no, I work here. My job is to greet people when they arrive. he's the America's Walmart greeter. That's his new day job. He's not going to be president on March 4th.
Yeah. So I want to ask March 4th, like you said, no, this is the real one. That's the real day. And that's why they're all going back, whatever. First of all, the hotel thing, like, supply and demand, that's their whole thing, right? Like if there's a big demand for those days, then it's going to go up. Here's the screen grab for, yes, Trump's argument for why he should get to live at Mar-a-Lago. He's an employee who greets people when they arrive and thanks them when they leave. So yes, him classifying himself as Walmart greeter is just fantastic. But anyway, there's nothing that weird or inconceivable about what's going on with the hotel rates for those particular dates. It's exactly because of these lunatics and what's going on there. But I want to know, like you said, no, this is the real one, because this is where the goalposts have moved to now. How many different times have the Q people already moved the goalpost to a further date in the future because they reached the supposed day of the Kraken or whatever? It didn't happen, and then they set a new one. And so right now the new one is March 4th. What's the next one going to be, Mark, after this? Because they're not going to stop. Like, what are they going to do when this also doesn't happen, which every sane person knows it will not?
They'll invent, and then they'll find some obscure reason. It'll be March 10th and then April 2nd. And then it'll be that once the Republicans take the House in 2022, they'll appoint him Speaker of the House and then impeach Biden and Kamala, and he'll resume the presidency. And it'll be because the Q's very first drop in the beginning of 2017 was that Hillary Clinton's arrest was imminent. The first goalpost hasn't happened.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, you're the resident Q expert. Do they typically, I know they move the goalposts further down the field, further out into the future, but, do they bother to explain why the last one was false, or do they just pretend like it didn't happen? Do they just sort of set a new one and ignore that the previous one ever existed, or do they kind of try to rationalize what went wrong with the previous one?
They do both at the same time, Trey. So it's like, it'll be like, well, they'll make excuses for why it hasn't happened yet. Or obviously the real plan, because Trump has to move covertly, is yada. That's why he hasn't done anything publicly yet. Or it'll be the Hillary's been arrested and replaced by a clone. It'll be Trump's already shadow president right now, but is also going to be inaugurated on the 4th. People, they believe all of it at the same time. There's no
right.
And I do want to say there's been all this stuff. These people aren't stupid. I mean, they're incredibly wrong and they believe stupid shit. But these are people who are swinging $1,500 a night for a hotel room. They function and they have good jobs. There was there was a story went viral yesterday. It fucking made me insane, talking about how 60% of the people that have been arrested have economic troubles. They frame it like they're poor people, but their economic troubles were their businesses went bankrupt. And they lost their lake houses when the real estate market turned down or whatever. It's this idea that these are all poor hillbillies is infuriating to me.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm 100% with you. So moving on, next honorable mention for Daily Dumbass, just Congress in general, what they're up to up there. Yeah. I'm sure many of y'all saw the Log Your Cat, one of my personal favorites from recent meme history. And, everybody laughed at that guy, but look what's going on at Congress. Matt, play this first clip whenever you have it.
Sprung out from the last recession. It offers a job to anyone who wants it.
Oh, man, I love this guy.
We must make sure that our nation's sole proprietors and the smallest of small businesses receive timely.
Will the gentleman suspend?
Listen to this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Emmer?
Yes.
Are you okay?
I am.
You're upside down, Tom.
I don't know how to fix that.
And get it right side up.
Our society is run by people who can't work Zoom, right?
Is this a metaphor?
Dude, I don't know whether it's like it's so hilarious that this happened right off the heels of Lawyer Cat. Do you know what I mean? Like this happened in Congress right after that happened. Like it almost seems like, prefabricated or whatever. Like I've said before, everybody knows I'm not a guy, but I see sometimes things like this where the stars just align in such a way that are so hilarious to me. It just makes me question, like, man, is there somebody pulling the strings? Because that is hilarious.
If there is a God, he's pretty funny.
So
there's no
and
big
a
takeaway
huge
from
dick,
that.
but very funny.
Yeah. If there's no takeaway from that politically, except that old people rule. And coming off the back of that, another thing that doesn't matter at all. This video will serve as our update on near attendance swearing in hearings. This is from yesterday.
Yeah. You call Senator Sanders everything but an ignorant slut.
That is not true.
I want the record to reflect that I did not call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. Okay?
I don't know how I should take that, Senator Kennedy. But, Senator Kennedy.
What? Oh my God! All right, so if you didn't see the last episode, we were talking about near attendance. OMB head proposed, who's been going through Senate confirmation. They've pointed out all these just egregious insults she made about other politicians on her Twitter in the past. It's very like low level, very garden variety, like Ted Cruz sucks type of shit. But this right here you just saw is what that like kind of has escalated to. That guy's saying that.
I know Bernie doesn't hit for everybody, but I do want to point out how everybody else is a fucking child in this situation. Like Bernie was probably the person who near attended was the meanest to, and he doesn't give a shit about any of this.
Right.
And you have a Republican trying to pretend to care about this woman insulting Bernie's honor. And when Bernie gets his turn to ask questions, it's all about corporate donations to her organization and whether that's going to sway her decision making. Stuff that matters.
Yeah.
Not this dumb, did Nancy Pelosi try to kill herself to frame Trump bullshit? Or not like your tweets are mean. Who cares? Who fucking cares? People are losing their houses. It is a goddamn pandemic.
Right. But dude, it's just that combo of that motherfucker saying, you did everything but call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. And then I would like the record to state that I did not call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. Oh my God. It's just such self-parody, man. It's insane. But all right.
The only thing could have made it better is Bernie being like, I'd like to stipulate for the record that I am an ignorant slut. Which, if people don't know, get that reference, it's like a famous Dan Aykroyd sketch from SNL, like 1980. That's this dude's comedy references. All right.
Right. Well, as always, dude. These are like their references are always just so ancient and archaic. But I gotta say, this one worked for me. I like this one.
Yeah.
A+. All right. So moving on from the Daily Dumbasses, although are we really? Moving into the impeachment update. What's going on with that? A lot of dumbassery happening there. But one part of it hit, right, Mark?
Yeah. Basically, so far, it's been horrifying after horrifying videos spliced up with Trump tweets and putting into timelines and what happened and how close Mitt Romney came to getting murdered, which was fairly close. I mean, like within 30 yards or so. Not super close, but close enough that Mitt Romney is comfortable with, I'm sure.
Yes, by the way, that guy's name, Eugene Goodman, I believe, the Capitol security officer who saved both Pence and Romney and probably a bunch of others. But yeah, the video came out with him literally turning Romney around and pretty much saving him from the mob or whatever.
Yeah,
and
he's the guy that led the mob. He led the mob away and he picked a fight with them and ran away and led them in the wrong direction to get them away from the center.
And so then ran into Romney along the way, right? Yeah. And said, "No, turn around, go the other direction." But yeah, no, that guy,
he already got a promotion.
Yeah, he did. He's been recognized for it, which is good. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's all that's happening. I mean, all Republicans are leaving this chambers, not even watching. Even when they're there, they're doodling on notepads and stuff because they all know how they're going to vote. And they want to feel as little shame about it as possible, which sucks. They might have swayed a couple votes. We'll come back to that in a second. But so far, my favorite part of it is they quoted some lyrics from Run the Jewels. So you got it. Matt.
Violence by Trump supporters was planned and organized despite recent efforts to obscure that truth. To emphasize the point, she invoked a very political group, Run the Jewels, which has some lines about how, yes, there is a they. Anytime a man say there is not, then you know that he lost the plot. And truth's truth, when denied or not. Here she was.
The truth is usually seen and rarely heard. Truth is truth, whether denied or not. And the truth is, President Trump had spent months calling his supporters to a march on a specific day, at a specific time.
So that's from a song called Early off Run the Jewels 3, I believe, which I highly recommend.
First of all, that hits, but I want to clarify something based on that clip. Like, did she present it as a Run the Jewels quote, or did she just quote Run the Jewels? They found out about it and then added the other additional quotes on both sides of it the way that they did. It all hits for me. I'm just curious.
The part she quoted was "Truth is usually seen but rarely heard." I'm not sure if that's I'm not familiar with it. It's a normal colloquialism, or if LP wrote it himself. But either way, it's in the song, and that MSNBC host felt real cool reciting that. So that part was fun for me.
No, Congress could generally use some more Run the Jewels. As far as I'm concerned, just maximize the Run the Jewels usage on Capitol Hill.
if John Ossoff could win Georgia, then Killer Mike definitely could. Killer Mike's very pro-gun, so honestly, he probably have an easier time than John Ossoff. So basically, after all this evidence, they aren't going to get 17 Republicans, which they need to convict, but it looks like they're going to get more than the 5 they started with. Here is a senator from Louisiana, Cassidy. Yeah.
Police officers. As on the timeline, you hear the police officers say, "We're outflanked. Let's go back." And you hear it from, I think, Officer 50, in a panic-stricken voice. They're using weapons on us. They're using bear spray. And the president was calling to try and get more senators to decertify the election. Now, presumably, since we were at that point being evacuated, and I think he was told that, there was some awareness of the events. And so what I hope the defense does is explain that. If one of the charges is that you should have called out people and you didn't, even though it was clear that the police officers were under assault, please explain that. I think the other thing that I want to hear the defense speak to, because the House managers made much of this, is that the president continued to say the election was stolen. I still have people back home who swear that the Dominion machines were rigged, even though different news outlets have printed retractions, apologies, and otherwise disassociated themselves from that story. But obviously the president repeated it over and over. That clearly had an impact. So when the point was made, people felt as if they had no recourse because their vote was being stolen. Well, the president built that story. So how do you defend that? How do you describe that? Because again, people will still be telling me that Dominion rigged the machines.
Seems like some reasonable questions to me, Mark.
Yeah, but here's a guy who's frustrated that he's going to have to deal with these. He's going to have to deal with these consequences long after Trump's absolved of them. Like he's going to have to he's going to be getting yelled at town hall meetings for why he personally didn't make Trump president again. For the rest of his life. And it's not going to be fun for him, I think, is what he's saying. And he's like about the stuff about why the National Guard wasn't called up. These guys are apparently they don't like being constantly reminded that they personally were almost physically harmed by this braying fucking mob.
So what makes what makes the difference between this guy and the rest of the ones who just are holding the line still? So many of them, like why? I don't know. What makes some of them sensical and the other ones not? And I mean, even outside of the obvious, fucking loonies, like MTG and them in Congress and whatnot.
I can't. None of them can think more than 2 feet in front of their face, right? That's a through line here. Is like what is life like for your children and grandchildren in 20, 30 years? None of that it seems to ever occur to them. They can't even think. They don't even think as far as their next election, because this is like, he's at least occurring like, how the hell am I going to win a primary in 2022 or 2024 or whenever, when in this crazy of an environment? Because if people believe this level of disinformation, I'm going to be in the pedophile cabal by then, according to their popular imaginations. And how do I run ads? What do you run ads saying, "Hi, I'm Bill Cassidy, and I'm not in a pedophile cabal"? Like, it's like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah. But yeah, they're grasping at any straws they can find. You know, some of the other Republicans are maintaining that it would be impossible to convict Donald Trump because he wasn't impeached when he was impeached, which was what happened when he was impeached. And I know that sounds silly, but Matt, please play the clip, and you'll see I'm not that far off from what they're actually saying. Some of them. So yeah, it's the next clip there, Matt, talking about time ain't real, the technicality to vote on.
Remember before McDonald's had all-day breakfast, and you try to get breakfast at 10:31 a.m.
Right.
And they say, "Sorry, can't do it."
Yeah.
This is essentially their impeachment argument.
Right.
In this country, that's not a good precedent for our nation. For the same reasons I voted against impeachment, or the same reasons I voted to certify the Electoral College because of the Constitution. Impeaching a president who's no longer president has never been done before in this country.
But Congresswoman,
so it's unprecedented.
But he was impeached while he was president.
Huh?
Right. This is a second impeachment trial. We've never impeached a president who's no longer president. That's
Then
never
she
been
just
done in our
repeats the
nation's
same
history,
not
to
true
my knowledge.
thing.
Answer that question and no, well then, how do you not convict him?
Well, the impeachment process, as I've stated before, is unconstitutional. Impeaching a president who's no longer president has never been done in this country. Now,
You keep saying that, Congresswoman, that is not the fact of the case. He was president of the United States when he was impeached. He is an impeached president, even if he's convicted. He was president when impeached. The constitutionality question has also been answered by the U.S. Senate, because our Constitution says the following: the U.S. Senate handles all impeachment trials, and it is up to them. And they have said this is constitutional. So I know it's your opinion that it is not. But now that it is deemed constitutional, and it has been impeached, what do you do?
Yep.
Well, if prosecutors do believe that he incited an attack on the Capitol, there's a criminal court where they can also file charges in this instance, would be another option.
All right. So
3 different times she says it's lit. She says we have never impeached a president who was no longer the president. And she had to say it 3 times because 2 of those times it was pointed out to her that, okay, no, but we literally did, and that's exactly what we're discussing right now, is that he was impeached a second time while he was still the president, and she just pulled the Marco Rubio call of just, reiterating the exact same. Well, we've never done that before. No, we literally did. But the thing is, guys, we've never done that before. Like, what?
That's Geo Representative Nancy Mace, by the way, who's enjoying her time in the spotlight after she became famous a week ago for lying on AOC, trying to make her out to be a drama queen for being afraid of being murdered by that fucking mob. And so this is her January 17th, the distant time of 3 weeks ago when Trump was still president. More Republicans would have backed impeachment if it wasn't rushed. So 3 weeks ago, impeachment was too early.
Right.
Now it's too late.
Yep.
I'm assuming there would have been a 2-day Goldilocks window where it would have been just right. But this is the second fucking game they always play, where it's like there's always a technical reason they can't do the right thing. Right. It's always like, I would do it, but it's like trying to speak to you ever call up your insurance company and try to get something paid? And you get talking around these circles. It's like, look, man, but I pay for insurance, and this was a medical problem. But what's like? Sorry, we don't solve problems like human beings here at Asshole Incorporated. So it's the same thing. It's the same hustle, and it's not how anybody solves problems in the real world. And I fucking hate it.
The virtues of bureaucracy, dude. That's why it exists. You can hide behind that shit. Yes. What consequences will Trump face, if any? Again, I think we all probably agree on the general answer to that question. But consequences are a whole thing in America right now. Moving to pop culture, which is rare for us here on the Skews, but it just feels relevant. A lot of talk about cancel culture and consequences and saying bad things and what happens and how that all goes down recently between country music star Morgan Wallen and former Mandalorian co-star and ex-MMA fighter Gina Carano, who have both been embroiled in recent controversies based on things they've said on the internet, basically. Morgan Wallen got caught using the N-word on a video that was posted on the internet, and there's no real caveat to this. He just straight up said the N-word while drunk.
He was telling his white friend goodbye if you need any consequence. He was just drunk as shit, and I mean, I'm not saying just like making an excuse for it. He's not in the positive side. He isn't defending himself. He is just saying sorry. I ought not have done that. He posted a weird rambling apology today to his YouTube channel. He said he was on hour 72 of a 72-hour bender, which, holy shit, my man, you got other problems. And that's from his apology. And it was really funny because the first thing he did, we're not going to show it because fuck that, but he goes, first of all, I want to apologize to my white fans, which I don't know why he started with that. I do want to meet a black fan of Morgan Wallen, though. But this guy, his sales went up 400%, right?
Right, exactly. That's the thing. Talk about like actual consequences or whatnot. He's been raked through the mud. That makes it sound like it's unfair, which is not what I'm trying to do.
No.
But he's been, he's caught a whole lot of shit for this, rightfully so, in the media. But in the meantime, yes, his album sales have skyrocketed to the tune of like 400% or more, and it just bothers me. It doesn't surprise me, but it does bother me so much because, like, I was about to say I love country music, but just so everybody's clear on it, I don't like radio country, pop country, Nashville country music. No, that ain't my shit at all. But there's actual good country music out there. People like Isbell and Sturgill and Tyler Childers and many more who do it for real, and I just hate to see it. It's so discouraging and upsetting to me to see this type of shit going on in the even ancillary to a genre of music that I love, but like radio country can go fuck itself, and I'm not surprised that their fans are this shitty, basically. But,
I mean, it's like speaking of Jason Isbell. Jason Isbell apparently wrote a song on this album, and
Cover Me Up, one of Isbell's greatest songs of all time. I didn't know that Morgan Wallen had covered that, but apparently he covered that on the album. And so Isbell went on Twitter and said that some of the money that's coming from Morgan Wallen's skyrocketing album sales comes to him because of that song that he wrote that's on the album, and Isbell pledged to donate all of those earnings specifically to the NAACP. So, that's classic, typical Isbell stuff as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's been walking the walk for a long time, so not surprising, but you love to see it.
He's a good dude. I just thought, I don't like, how come being people from the country, Trey, how hard is it to not drink for 72 hours straight, then call your white friend the N-word on camera in front of, like, it's like.
The first part of that, can be pretty tough. The drinking for 72, you get out with all your fucking redneck buddies or whatever, and you just get on one, Mark. It just happens. But you should be able to get on one without then hurling the N-word around everywhere. That's the part that should be easy to avoid,
I think a part of this is he's new money. He's not used to being in a rich person's neighborhood where there would be cameras set up everywhere. Like, this is like a Ring camera type situation, or like a surveillance camera from his neighbor's house. It was just mad that his drunk rich redneck new money is fucking making noise in his neighborhood, and made 50 grand from TMZ off the side of it. So,
well, it's also like, another version of what you're saying is just, I agree with you. He's not used to being in a like he's not used to being in a place where it might not be cool for that to happen. I think, if you know what I mean. Like there's
this is a fucking idiot. He, like, literally the last time he was in the news, he got COVID on purpose so he couldn't tape SNL, and he's still got to do SNL the next week. Like this,
after he had a newborn baby and everything, he was like partying maskless the week he was supposed to be on SNL, and that was yes, he's a fucking redneck dipshit, dude. Like that's what else is there to say about it? I've known a million of them, but this one is just.
I don't. We're talking about consequences today. I'll like fuck up and get a traffic ticket and somehow fucks up 3 months of my life. Here's a guy who said 2 epic life-destroying mistakes in the last 3 months and is failed upward. Right. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it.
All right. So kind of on that note, because I don't think it's been proven that she's failed. We haven't seen that she's failed upward yet, but in terms of like in terms of having an opportunity to stop doing the shit that you're doing, like to continuously fuck up over the span of months when you're being told, please stop fucking up, and you just keep doing it. On that note, Mandalorian co-star Gina Carano, who has just been fired by Disney from the series, not just from The Mandalorian itself, but also apparently they had planned on, this hadn't been public information, but it's reported that they had planned on having a spin-off series for Carano, where she was one of the leads on Disney Plus. So major opportunity, all that completely over now because she could not stop tweeting insane shit and just talking shit on the internet, despite being told over and over again, if you don't stop doing this, you're gonna fuck your career up. She just kept going, and finally culminating with comparing her struggles as a rich, privileged, white Republican superstar to Jews and the Holocaust. You could see how that would. You could see how she
tweeted a famous picture from the Holocaust of a bunch of Jews being beaten by, I think, Nazi youth, and the caption of it was a text about how being a Republican today is like being a Jew in 1930s Germany, which.
Dude, the thing that just kills me, it shouldn't bother, because it's one person's bullshit ideas in their head, which you can never impact either way. But it's like, you know that internally in her own mind, what has happened since she tweeted that is like direct confirmation of what she tweeted in the first place. Do you know what I mean? She has the persecution. She has the persecution complex that they're so famous for. And then she actually faced consequences for it. That's just validated in her head that the persecution of her beliefs and whatnot is 100% real. Like,
that's going to be the takeaway from everybody. Like that. If we have that Ted Cruz tweet, throw it up here, Matt. Texan Gina Carano broke barriers in the Star Wars universe. Not a princess, not a victim, not some emotionally tortured Jedi. She played a woman who kicked ass and who girls looked up to. She was instrumental in making Star Wars fun again. Of course, Disney canceled her. Now, Trey alluded to this, but she's tweeted a bunch of insane shit, and this was not the most insane thing. This was just her boss is getting fed up with having to have this conversation with her over and over and over again. And it's a Disney brand. Like anybody that's worked for any Disney property, like even family-fying FX, like it's like they like Sons of Anarchy wouldn't fly on FX right now because it's too gory and violent. They actually fired the former showrunner of Sons of Anarchy off his new show, the Mexican biker gang show. I can't think of the name of it right now, but because they wanted to take it in a less violent direction. Now, if you don't know what she did, she tweeted a bunch of like anti-trans stuff. And it's important to note that the star of the show she was on, Pedro Pascal's sister, just publicly came out as trans this week. All right, so that's part of it. So her tweeting this reminded everybody that, by the way, her fucking co-star hates her and probably is annoyed by having to deal with this shit all the time. She tweeted a bunch of anti-mask memes this week. he's tweeted a bunch of like 5G and QAnon conspiracy theories. And that this post reminded people that she's a Q supporter. The week the news is wall to wall with a bunch of Q supporters trying to murder our national legislature. All right. So this is the culmination of just like, we don't want to deal with this anymore. Like they'd handed her a big bag of money, a cartoon bag of money with a dollar sign on it, and she chose to set it on fire so she could Instagram Holocaust memes. It's fucking the amazing case of online brain.
Right. Yes, exactly. Like you said, there have been plenty of other instances before and people had called for her to be fired and whatnot, and they hadn't done it. Like, she got opportunity after opportunity to just stop doing that, and she just refused to do that, and now she's been fired. And that's the way that like consequences work for most people, but it's going to be painted. It already is being painted as cancel culture gone awry, right? So Matt, you can start throwing up comments and questions wherever you got them. What do y'all think about cancel culture or the impeachment or any of that? But yeah, Mark, like and that's where it's like is it cancel culture? Is it consequence culture? Like, what is it? It's going to be painted as cancel culture no matter what. She's going to go on a victory lap, I'm sure, on the far right. She'll be lionized by them. I still think she fucked up because that does not amount to fucking Star Wars franchise money and success by a long shot. But she'll be propped up by these people probably.
Yeah, there's the right-wing welfare circuit is extremely powerful. She'll be she'll be speaking at colleges and probably have her own show on whatever one of the conservative networks she wants. Because, I mean, she's good-looking and well-spoken and has fans, so they'll make money off of her. I will say that, like, everything gets put under cancel culture now, but it is funny to me that, like, we live in an at-will employment universe. Like, every one of us, everyone listen to this. If you're in America, you can be fired at any point for any reason, right? That's the rules. If your boss doesn't like the shirt you're wearing, like, there's like a very few reasons why they can't fire you. You can't fire you for being black, gay, pregnant, right? That's pretty much it, or your religion. And you have to prove that's the reason they fired you, because they can always just make up some other shit the reason they fired you. And they found one reason they don't like it you can be fired for. The one reason is being a fucking asshole. You are now a protected class to conservatives if you're a fucking asshole no one wants to work with. Yeah. And I don't know, I was thinking about this last night, but like maybe the way we save the labor movement in America is by pointing out to conservatives that it'd be harder to fire you for being racist or transphobic or whatever if you were in a union.
Right.
So
that's how we finally sell unions on them.
Yeah.
Like, no, you could say the N-word. It's fine. Just be in a union. J&A Moore says she'll end up doing some BS show on NRA TV. LOL. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there's a whole circuit for the Kirk Cameron cinematic universe, you know, like with Kevin Sorbo and James Woods. She'll go and make some direct-to-video movies with those motherfuckers, and you know, and
that is funny to me that I didn't think about the NRA TV angle, but like NRA TV is kind of business now, I think. But if it was still around, it'd be funny to think about Dana Lash sweating in her boots because this younger, hotter Dana Lash is now on the scene.
All right, here's a question for you, Mark. Kathy Hogan says, Mark, what's that certificate behind your head? You certified, boy? Explain that.
Is my absolutely useless college degree. My wife hung it up. I don't know. I forget I have it. I should burn it.
What's it in?
Well, in the grand tradition of people who don't have any other better ideas, I majored in English. So.
Right on. Yeah, me and Corey were just talking about Corey Ryan Forrester on his podcast recently about college, and I was saying I don't regret going to college at all because I was the first person in my family to do it. But I'm also not using my college degree, and I think that there's a lot of validity to the grift argument related to college. I think both things at once. I think it can be great and it can be a way out and to elevate yourself and all that. But the idea that every single person needs to go to college in America because that's just what you do and you need to take out loans to do it, that is bullshit. It just depends on what you're trying to do. You know, producer Matt just said his degree is in philosophy, so that was a huge mistake. You know, like it just depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to study. College can be awesome, but it can also be complete bullshit.
Here's how I think about it. Like, it should be cheaper, first of all. Like, we need to go back to the college was in the 70s, where it was mostly free if you went to a public school. Like college in the 70s, 80s was like a couple $100 a semester or whatever. That's one of the reasons everybody's in fucking debt. I got a BS. Yes, nice.
Yeah, an enemy says I got a BS and BS. Me too, because my BS is in psychology. So that's BS and BS. There you go.
You got a master's degree though. You're double fancy.
In business, yes, which is like a real thing. But yeah, still, whatever. You got English, I got psychology. Producer Matt's got philosophy. We're checking a lot of bullshit boxes over here.
I have mixed feelings over it all, because I do think college can be a way to develop well-rounded, knowledgeable citizens about the world.
Right.
But that's if you get a liberal arts degree, which is the opposite, is training someone to do a job, which is what a lot of people go to college for, which that should be a trade school. Like, it just it just should be. And it should be a lot cheaper. Either way, it should be a lot cheaper. But like, ideally, I wish everybody would get a 4-year liberal arts degree just to learn about culture and how, if you're going to go into tech, to not destroy society because certain ideas are dangerous. Then you learn your actual trade, your actual task, instead of you go from high school calculus straight into like computer science, and then you're making apps, and you've never read any dystopian sci-fi or Shakespeare, so you don't know why you're ruining the world. You don't have any conception of it. You're just fucking doing it.
Yeah. Jen Morgan Caravello says, I hate that our society sees people without degrees as being less worthy. And yes, I agree with you completely. That's what I'm saying. It's just like a person-to-person basis. You know, college don't make sense for everybody. And the fact that you didn't go to college and, you know, still end up doing just fine because there was nothing at college for you in the first place, then, you know, good for you. You made the right call, and there's nothing to be condescended to about that.
Yeah. I guess my point, like, I wish maybe everybody it doesn't need to be a fancy degree or anything. Maybe you get 4 years after high school just to have a library card and go sit under a tree and read stuff and think about who you are and what the world is and what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree. If there was some mandatory program in this country that exposed everyone to, like you said, other cultures and other ways of thinking and, you know, art forms and all that shit, I think people will be a lot better off. You might say, like, well, high school should cover a lot of that, but I mean, you know, it don't.
I'm not saying it's easy. Sorry, tech school isn't easy either. I'm not saying any of it's easy. That was the point. I'm just saying, like, education is for different things, and if you want to train people to look at, for example, Q, right? This is this movement's fueled by people who are not media literate, who don't understand how the actual government works and shit. They just don't, and so they're very easily fooled and duped. There's a great basically the Q is what happened, which a bunch of people who aren't familiar with message board culture came in contact with it, and they're not irony poisoned and don't understand how people act on there. It's like when a bunch of boomers consumed some content by 22-year-olds and thought it was literally true, and now they're burning down the Capitol, right? So it's just like I'm saying, like, if education is to make people, more aware citizens, then it's hugely failing because we're trying to turn out. We're doing 4-year trade schools that cost $200,000, and I fucking hate that. You know?
Yeah. Debbie Shin says, you guys have degrees, but try and find a plumber. And yeah, I don't know shit. My wife does all the plumbing around here, and she'd be the first one to tell you that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to do anything. Like, I got my buddy Thompson, my best friend from growing up. He went to trade school and certified and all this stuff or whatever, and he can just do so much stuff, Mark. Like, he actually has like real life skills, that just apply on a day-to-day basis. And it's just, it's amazing.
Now I think everybody should go to plumbing school. You won me over. There's no way. I mean, I don't know. I definitely need a plumber by half an hour because it's making me want to flush my fucking degree. So that's going. Yeah.
Let's see here. What was I like?
Did you see, speaking of people going crazy, did you see that story today about Sidney Powell trying to duck the process server from Dominion?
Yeah, Sidney Powell, one of Trump's former lawyers, right? The ones that was like pushing the election fraud stuff or whatnot about Dominion specifically. And so Dominion is suing her, and
for
she's trying to act
$1.3 billion. So she has been on the lam for about a month from process servers trying to keep her being served, right? So they staked out her house in North Carolina, and she finally came home. So they tried to serve her, but she locked herself in her car, and someone called the cops, presumably her neighbor, because there was a ruckus. And so anyway, they finally got her served after the cops showed up and be like, "This counts as you being served. I witnessed it. They're leaving the papers outside your car door. You can't duck this shit anymore." But it's just she's a rich redneck, but she's still a redneck,
right?
And I'm just glad that every redneck dispute always ends up with a fight in the yard. And I just thought,
right, yes, and it's also like this idea of like, well, if I don't, if I don't like get caught direct, if I just ignore that, and I don't confront it directly, then it's not real. Like if she just continues to spy versus spy the process servers and duck them the entire time, then she's fine.
It's the same strategy your cousin used for his divorce. Just fucking hide out at Teddy's trailer, and they can't find you. It's not real.
Right. Natalie Nichols says Dominion canceled Sydney's.
Yep. This is cancel culture coming for Sydney. All she did was say a bunch of lies that destroyed his company, and now they just want to make her pay for it. It's fucking cancellation, man.
Yeah. But how does that type of thing work, though? I mean, I know you ain't a lawyer, but still, like you said, $1.3 billion just from her, or just like in general? Because, like, I mean, she ain't got $1.3 billion, right? So what happens?
Well, they gonna take everything they can get, though. I imagine her house is going on the market.
Well, it said they were outside her house in like the Biltmore Estates, North Carolina, or Biltmore something, North Carolina, which I don't know, but I hear that and I'm like, oh yeah, that rich people North Carolina. That's rich people part of North Carolina. So she may not have 1.3 billion, but she got plenty they could take. Again, consequences, man. It's an alien concept to a lot of these people. Deep Big Eyes says, what do you think about the fact that Trump promised to march with them and then ghosted them? I think that's just the Trumpiest shit that ever trumped, like what could be Trumpier than that? He'll do it again. Like over and over again, he'll do that.
His first, it's like, oh, you go down on me, then I'll go down on you, right? It's like I don't think the second part of that's ever happened, but it's like his first legal team for the impeachment quit because he wouldn't sign a contract agreeing to actually pay them. He wouldn't promise, he wouldn't put it down on paper that he'd actually pay them, so they quit. This is the same thing. It's like, yeah, I'll be right there. You guys go first, and I'll be right in front of you.
Right. Well, also to me, even just the marching part, like physically speaking, they should have known he wasn't going to do that. Like, he ain't going to march. Marching's hard, man. Yeah, as Toad Liquor, I like that name, Toad Liquor, says bone spur kicked up. Yeah, exactly, dude. He ain't going to march, like literally actually physically march for shit ever. He couldn't. He literally couldn't. So
we talked about it on Tuesday. He thinks exercise kills you. So why would he? He's not going to die sooner for that. But yeah, it's funny. Like he told them he'd be right there with them. Then immediately went to watch them get the shit beat out of him by cops on television. 4 of them died. He just went and watched them die while he had popcorn, and they think he loves them.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yep. Deep Big Eyes again says he can't even walk down a ramp. That's not true. He covered that. All right, Deep Big Eyes, he's damn good ramp walker. He covered the ramp walking situation.
They said it was slippery. Remember, he made a big. He went on about that ramp for like 20 minutes at a rally once, saying it was slippery. Even the general, the big strong general, had a hard time walking that, which is like the guy was like escorting him down because he's elderly. He's a 74-year-old man with health problems. Mm-hmm. But also, if you take his shirt off, he's fucking ripped as hell. If you look at all those cartoons as his fans draw.
Yeah, put him in a Heisman pose and a painting, and then you'll see the truth. All right, well, as a reminder, as we announced last time, we are in March. So starting the first week of March, we're going to a weekly format where it's just on Tuesdays for multiple reasons. But that's what we're going to be doing. We feel like there's we're being maybe optimistic and hoping there'll be a little less insanity to cover in the future, but also even more optimistic that maybe things get back to normal somewhat. And, once a week versus twice a week will make more sense for people. But that's what we're gonna do starting in March, every Tuesday. But for the rest of February, we will be here every Tuesday and every Thursday, including next Tuesday. We'll see you right back here. We'll keep doing it. And thank you all so much for sticking with us. We'll